Well, I definitely know two things going into this video. This movie's not going to be as bad as Ryan's World. It definitely ain't going to do the numbers that my Ryan's World video did. I mean, like, Jesus Christ, guys. What the hell happened? I mean, thank you, but what the hell happened? Also, I was not aware that Bill Skarsgard was the main character in this movie. I could have sworn that was Jojo Siwa.
When someone dies,
a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead.
but sometimes something so bad happens that the soul cannot rest.
The Crow is a remake of the 1994 cult classic that literally no one asked for, and it comes to us from Lionsgate, the company that recently released Borderlands. Yay! Soulmates Eric and Shelley are brutally murdered when the demons of her dark past catch up with them. I'm gonna stop you right there. They were not brutally murdered. They had bags put over their heads and were suffocated to death. I mean, yeah, technically they were murdered, but they weren't brutally murdered. Also, I never got, like, why when people do that, why don't the person being suffocated ever get the idea to, like, poke a hole through the mouth? Given a chance to save his true love by sacrificing himself, Eric sets out to seek merciless revenge on their killers, traversing the worlds of the living and the dead to put the wrong things right. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, recently I've been putting up polls asking you guys what new release of the week you guys would like to see a review from me of. And for the past few weeks, you guys have sent me to Borderlands, the Ryan's World movie, and this week, The Crow with Bill Skarsgard. I'm starting to notice a little bit of a pattern here. Apparently you guys really like to see me lose my shit on camera. Will that happen this time around? Let's find out. As for my thoughts on the original Crow starring Brandon Lee, I only just watched it for the first time the other night, and I did really like it, but I wouldn't say that I loved it. I'll be honest, if it wasn't for things like the gothic atmosphere, the style, a great soundtrack, the title character, his powers, and for this sadly being Brandon Lee's final performance, this would be just another generic revenge film. But at the same time, that's the reason that everything about it works. I don't love it as much as everyone else seems to, but I very much understand why it's a beloved cult classic and why people still talk about it to this day. That's why when people saw the trailer for this remake, people immediately went hating on it, saying that we don't need this, it looks awful, and that it's all around disrespectful to Brandon Lee in his final performance. And while I do agree with that final statement, I don't know, I thought it looked kinda meh. But keep in mind, that's coming from someone who just watched the original for the first time the other night. But guys, let me tell you, I secretly knew that this movie was going to be great. Why? Because there was no Rotten Tomatoes score for the movie before I went to go see it. That's when I know. Masterpiece. Okay, but seriously, it's probably no secret right now that this movie isn't getting the best word of mouth, but despite that, I still try going into this movie open-minded like I do most movies. But you also gotta keep in mind that I literally just had to go watch the Ryan's World movie about like a week ago, so no matter what I say about The Crow, I'm just glad that's not Ryan's World. Or Borderlands. So that said, I actually have a few positives. So unlike the original, this movie actually has a heavier focus on Eric and Shelley's relationship and how they came to be before they were murdered, and I really got caught up in their relationship. When it comes to the original, I found it to be a very fast-paced movie, and that goes for the remake as well, despite being 10 minutes longer. The editing was legit really good, and not at all choppy like some other action movies recently. Speaking of which, the action scenes are actually pretty entertaining for what they are, especially one scene taking place at an opera house, which is probably the best scene of the movie. One thing that I really like that they changed with this movie is that there's a lot more graphic violence than there is in the original. I don't know, I just never liked how in the original that they would just like cut away before anyone got like stabbed, impaled or something, even though the movie's rated R. And what? That's it? That's all my positives I got? Really? Okay, so the imaginary person over there is telling me that that is all the positives I have for The Crow 2024, and they're right because this movie's ass. When the movie first started and it was all about the relationship between our two leads, I was enjoying myself fine enough. But when it legit becomes The Crow, that is when the movie really started to show its true colors, because despite one great scene, it all went downhill from there. In the original, it's a pretty straightforward, simple revenge story. Guy comes back from the dead to exact his revenge on the men who murdered him and his girlfriend. That's it. But since this is the remake that no one asked for, we gotta be more complicated and add in as much crap as possible, no matter if it makes sense or not. So, when Eric dies, I don't know what exactly happens, but like he goes to this place that I guess is emphasized to be the land of the dead, but it's just like this like, I don't know what the hell you called it. This like like, I think it was like an old train station or something, but like that's like where he goes when he dies, and like the guy will push him into water, which brings him back to life on Earth, and I have no idea. It was so goddamn confusing. And I know someone down in the comments below is gonna try to explain it to me, but dude, it's not worth it. It's the Crow remake. It also doesn't help that I was late to the movie and missed like 5 minutes or so because there's this whole thing involving a horse, and I couldn't tell you what that had to do with anything in the movie. And speaking of the Crow himself, we gotta talk about Bill Skarsgard's performance. Now for the first half, when we follow the relationship between Eric and Shelley, he's not that bad at first. But as the movie goes on and he has a few more scenes where he has to freak out and stuff, he really just starts to sound and look like a whiny goth kid, and it honestly might be my least favorite performance from him. He honestly gets to the point where he is so whiny that you're almost kind of glad that he was mute in Boy Kills World, which by the way, is such an underrated movie and it's so great and you need to check it out. And you know how in the original he had like this crow flying around that was like his like sidekick that was like showing him where everything was at? Yeah, in this one, it just feels like it was there because it was there in the original, and oh my god, is the CGI in that thing terrible. They just think, oh, it's in the dark so no one's gonna notice. No, it's noticeable. And when I say that they thought they needed to make this movie more complicated, what I mean by that is that there are points where this movie legit goes full Disney remake because there are just random things that they'll just throw in there for no reason. And everybody knows you never go full Disney remake, but you went full Disney remake. He's told that if he kills everyone that killed him and his girlfriend, that she will come back to life. But here's the thing. That is so pointless because even the villains know that that is bullshit because they keep saying, oh yeah, she's not gonna come back to life. We're just fucking with this guy. So it's kind of like if you watch the first Deadpool and just know the entire time that Ajax is not able to fix his face. Speaking of the villains, they suck, but for whatever reason, there's this one who's the main bad guy that for some reason had these like satanic powers where he can convince someone to do something really bad, mainly suicide. And the only reason they made this choice was because, I don't know, they wanted a cooler villain for some reason. I mean, long-haired guy was fine. What was wrong with him? They also got rid of the gothic atmosphere, where in the original, it looked like an homage to a Tim Burton movie, where in this one, the only gothic thing they really got is our main character. But even him as the main character feels different, because for a while, it feels like Shelley's the main character, but when she dies, it feels like we're just following her whiny little boyfriend. I'm gonna be honest, it really is starting to seem like with a movie like this, that Lionsgate is trying to recapture what made the John Wick movies work, but they just keep failing to figure out what made those movies so special. So, let's say you go into this movie blind when I haven't seen the original. What are you going to think about it? I'm just gonna go off of a guy that I was talking to after the movie was over, and what he said that he liked it fine. So, more than likely, either you're gonna like this movie fine, or think it's pretty mid with like 1 or 2 cool action scenes. So in the end, the Crow remake is pretty bad, but I don't hate it or anything. Is it the worst movie of the year? Clearly not. Is it one of them? I guess. Again, this movie didn't piss me off or anything. It's just kind of there, and it's just run-of-the-mill bad. Even if you have the slightest interest in seeing this movie, I'd say wait for streaming or something, because you don't need to go out to a theater to see it. But if we're comparing this to some other recent releases from Lionsgate, like Expendables 4 or Borderlands, this clearly is not as bad, and is definitely more competently made. I'm gonna give The Crow 2024 a D+. By the way, I'm going to try to make a 1,000 subscriber video at some point, but if I do not get to that, I would just love to thank everyone who watched my Ryan's World video, or just like has been with the channel from the beginning, or just anyone who's like just watched one of my videos, or just thank you. Thank you for this all, because this was so unexpected. I was not expecting to hit 1,000 subscribers this week. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, turn on the notification bell, and while you're at it, go follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Trev's Movies, and I'll be back later with more reviews. See you then.